There was exactly one day in Donald Trump's time as president when he needed to call in federal troops, where he was empowered without checking with anyone to call in federal troops in the place where no governor is involved, Washington, D.C., and Donald Trump didn't do it. Rioters beat.
We need to hold the doors of the Capitol. I need court support.
Donald Trump pardoned every one of those Trump supporters who were trying to kill those police officers. Every one of those Trump supporters who wanted to go and kill Mike Pence. For 187 minutes that day, Donald Trump did absolutely nothing, and he never, ever, for a second, considered trying to stop his supporters from trying to beat and kill police officers. It was the Vice President of the United States who technically, without authority, took over and ordered the American military into action on January 6th at the Capitol. General Mark Milley testified to the January 6th committee. Vice President Pence was very animated, and he issued very explicit, very direct, unambiguous orders. There was no question about that, and I can get you the exact quotes, I guess, from some of our records somewhere, but he was very animated, very direct, very firm to Secretary Miller, get the military down here, get the Guard down here, put down this situation, etc. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn wishes the troops got there sooner.
Until then, I had never seen anyone physically assault Capitol Police or MPD, let alone witness mass assaults being perpetrated on law enforcement officers. I witnessed the rioters using all kinds of weapons against officers, including flagpoles, metal bike racks that they had torn apart, and various kinds of projectiles. Officers were being bloodied in the fighting. Many were screaming, and many were blinded and coughing from chemical irritants being sprayed in their faces. I sat down on a bench in the rotunda with a friend of mine who was also a Black Capitol Police officer and told him about the racial slurs I endured. I became very emotional and began yelling, "How the blank could something like this happen? Is this America?" I began sobbing.
Joining us now is former U.S. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I have been thinking about you since yesterday and before, actually, as we see Donald Trump playing this stunt of suddenly caring about law and order and preserving law and order by sending in the troops where they're absolutely not needed for any purpose we've been able to see whatsoever, compared to the day you needed the troops and he didn't send them. And I just want to give you an opportunity to respond based on your own experience to what you're feeling about what you're seeing now in Los Angeles.
Yeah, sure, Lawrence. Thank you for having me on. And listen, you know, it's easy to immediately start talking about my experience on January 6th, but there are real people in Los Angeles now that are suffering, that are being assaulted and unfairly targeted. And that's where my thoughts are with those individuals right now. I've seen videos of people being trampled by horses or beat by police officers and peacefully protesting. And let's be 100% clear. In no way is it okay to any time assault a law enforcement officer or anybody for that matter. So I am glad for the statements that were made by the FBI director, the attorney general, just saying no assaulting police officers, you're going to go to jail. I just wish that applied to the officers on January 6th. In DC, it's a little bit more ambiguous how the National Guard gets deployed. You know, there's not a governor of Washington, D.C., and D.C. is under federal control. However, in California, it's very clear who's in control of the National Guard. And I believe Gavin Newsom to be very competent and say when they do need help and that he will reach out. If you think back to just the fires that took place, he was not shy to ask for help there. But Donald Trump saw an opportunity to go after people in marginalized communities, people that vehemently oppose his policies and the way that they are targeting minorities and just wanting to do whatever they can to get people out of this country that don't look like them. And it's sad to say that a lot of Black and brown people are the targets of these ICE raids. And it's really unfortunate.
Some of the images we've seen today of some of the arrests that occurred today are among the most peaceful kinds of arrests you could ever imagine. They really did look like the arrests Jane Fonda was submitting to at the Capitol a few years ago. People just standing there, putting their hands behind their backs, obviously symbolic arrests for them. These were people. And how would you compare that to what you were encountering on January 6th?
Well, not even just Jane Fonda. I was there for the numerous Fire Drill Fridays when Jane Fonda and several other activists got arrested civilly, to include John Lewis. The good trouble John Lewis was arrested by the United States Capitol Police officers in a civil, peaceful way. Now, I'm not comparing the individuals in Los Angeles to John Lewis, but the way that the video that you just showed, those individuals peacefully submitting, and all of them surrounded by Los Angeles Police Department. I believe the LAPD put out a statement and thanked the community for the efforts in the way that they were going about conducting their business. Now, listen, let's be clear. I'll say this 100 times. If there are bad actors, which there are a lot of times, and you see events like this, there are bad actors. They need to be held accountable. They do not need to be celebrated. They do not need to be praised, but they are. In the name of Donald Trump. Let's go back to 2016 and those elections. And a lot of people of Donald Trump has always said, if you see these protesters, knock the hell out of them and we'll pay your legal expenses. This isn't something new that Donald Trump is doing. He's always been in favor of violence as long as it occurs in his name.
Governor Newsom tonight in his statement made it very clear he fully supports the police arresting the people who were involved in a couple of cars being set on fire. They were driverless cars that they have in Los Angeles as driverless taxis that we see them around Los Angeles. And the governor completely, obviously opposed to that, and that the LAPD was fully capable of handling that.
They absolutely were capable of that. And like you pointed out earlier in your program, the amount of people that were being arrested, the amount of people that were protesting could have easily been it was easily handled by the Los Angeles Police Department. And it just goes back to show the hypocrisy of not only Donald Trump, but his supporters and his mouthpieces in Congress and the Senate, and individuals like Tommy Tuberville and just those individuals that are calling for the arrest of Gavin Newsom. Donald Trump, we begged you for help on January the 6th, and it didn't happen. The help didn't come when we asked you for it. Now you have a state that's not asking for any help, but you feel the need to step in and intervene. And it's only for one reason, to flex your authority, that unchecked authority. And it's dangerous because, listen, there are police officers out there that are waiting for the opportunity to have the ability to do whatever they want at the expense of the president told me so. So how does the Supreme Court justify that as an official act? If a police officer goes out there and violates somebody's civil rights, but they said they did it because the president told them to. So was that an official act by the president right now, telling a police officer to violate somebody's civil rights who was peacefully protesting? There are videos of protesters out there in Los Angeles that are getting beat and clubbed. There's an Australian reporter that was shot by rubber bullets. They're just firing in the crowd indiscriminately, and that's escalating by the law enforcement officials there. Now, law enforcement always has a tough job to do, and it's important that they are able to do their job, but they are not need to be out there escalating things.
Former Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Lawrence.